I love this so much. Hello, booktube. It's me, Josh. It's not good at all. I am Josh, and welcome to Josh's Bookish Voyage. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in March 2020. So let's start with some basic stats, because why not? I'm ending the month with 296 books on my TBR shelf. It is what it is. It's a new thing I'm trying to do to keep myself accountable. Basically give that number so you have an idea of how everything evens out after I buy and read. I really don't want to break the 300 mark. I have to be very careful there. I unhauled 3 books. First one is The House of Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This was a gift, but I haven't looked into reading it. I'm sorry if you see this video, but I don't want a book just because it's a classic and it looks good. The next one is going to be Richard Dawkins' The Greatest Show on Earth. I decided to get rid of this because I bought this maybe a decade ago, 2011. I need to either read my oldest books or get them the hell off my shelf. He's sexist and he's Islamophobic. I haven't gotten rid of all of his books off my TBR, though that said, but I'm not going to go out of my way to read every book anymore. The next one is a similar situation. Heavens on Earth, The Scientific Search for the Afterlife. I bought not that long ago, but I shouldn't have bought it because I don't want to support him because he has serious problems, sexism. He's had a sexual assault or rape accusation against him, and it's one of those things where I have to ask myself, do I really want to promote this book, especially since this is just one of his many books that he's thrown out without any real accolades behind it. I do have one book of his that I want to read because it's a big book in the skeptic community. Those are the 3 books I unhauled. Next, I DNF'd 1 book. That's going to be Female Husbands. I did a whole vlog or review all about that, specifically for NetGalley. Normally I would go to my way to finish one, but I couldn't. You can see that video in the cards up there. Next, I read 20 books this month, not counting the DNF. 18 of those books were books that I own. 8 of them were new, as in bought in 2020. 10 of them were for my backlist, bought before 2020. That ratio of basically 50-50 is not what I'm going for. March was not a great month for new to backlist books, but that's something I'm acutely aware of. Then there were 2 arcs, or 1 arc if you don't count the one I DNF'd, and then 1 unowned book, which I borrowed. All in all, 20 books is fine, I suppose. It wasn't a great reading month as far as quality goes. I had 4 5 stars, 2 4.5 stars, 8 4 stars, 6 3.5 stars. If I had to rate Female Husbands, it would have been a 2, but I didn't really give it a rating because I DNF'd it at 45%. All in all, it's not as good as February, which I had more 4.5 to 5 stars. But it is what it is. So now I'm going to go through all the books that I read, not including the DNF, which I already talked about, from my least favorite to my favorite, which is to say lowest to highest rating. Aside from the DNF, my lowest rating was actually 3.5, which I'm starting to wonder if I'm being too generous with my 3.5s. But the first one I want to talk about here is The Other People, which I enjoyed. And the only reason I didn't give it a higher score is probably just because I didn't love it. I feel like a 3-star read tends to be kind of like it's fine. I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. But a 4 star is like I really enjoyed it, but I also didn't love it. And I didn't not enjoy it. I feel like the writing could have been better. I just didn't find myself being that engaged. So that's The Other People. The next one is The Glass Hotel, which I did an entire vlog for. Loved her writing. The plot was just so basic. You can see the whole vlog before I talk about it there. Up next is going to be Inferno by Ellen Datlow, which is a series of stories, horror stories, an anthology. I gave this 3.5 stars. It wasn't a bad book. There were some gems in here, but all in all, I was kind of disappointed. It felt more urban fantasy than it did horror. Some of the stories were fine. They were good and they had the right tone, but very few of them actually scared me. I was hoping for something more demonic than we got here. It was much more occultish without really getting deep into the demonic side of it, which was kind of a disappointment. I don't regret reading this. It was good and those stories were worth reading. So I'm still going to keep reading Ellen Datlow. If you watch my March TBR, you'll know that I said this book will make or break her, and it kind of just kept her flatlined at the same spot she was before, which is to say good with some misses. Next one is going to be The Glass Universe by Dava Sobel, which is about the calculators or the lady astronomers of the Harvard Observatory. This one I enjoyed. It was very dense in its content, and so it was like there's so much to learn here, which I was very happy about. I'm pretty sure I did a reading vlog for this too, which I'll also put in the cards. It was good. It was just a little too dense and a little too academic for me to give it a full 5 stars. I recommend it to everyone who's a scientist, planetary scientist that is, studies space. you might want to ask yourself if whether or not you're prepared to dig into something so academic. The next one is Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit. I'm really disappointed in this because I was expecting it to be better. I think it's probably the first set of essays that I just really didn't love. The first one was great. The rest were just sort of esoteric and mediocre. That's the gist of it. 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next one is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is the full collection of Oscar Wilde. I enjoyed it. It was a good tone. It was a really good plot, especially for a classic. It was really creepy and unnerving. I didn't love it. It didn't entertain me as much as I was hoping it would. Still better than a 3, which is I feel like this is one that I'm confident that 3.5 absolutely deserved. So maybe I just had a mediocre month of a lot of 3.5s because they were all just not bad, not great, just good. And for more of this one, you can watch my recent queer reads where I talk about this more in depth. Moving on to 4 stars. We're going to start with From the Ashes by Jesse Thistle. This is a memoir about an Indigenous Canadian in his life of in poverty and then being homeless and some time in prison. It was really good. You can watch my video there for a more in-depth discussion. Next one is going to be Radicalized by Cory Doctorow. 4 sets of novellas. I talk about this in Canada Reads as well. It is a really fun set of novellas, and I really enjoyed them. They're a solid collection. Next one, another Canada Reads, Son of a Trickster by Eden Robinson. Sorry, I forgot I bought this one. I actually bought all of them, but some of them are sent to my sisters, and I obviously can't see her right now because she's in America and I'm in Canada. This one I really enjoyed. This was a contemporary fantasy about a boy who finds out he has some connections to some type of god or mythological creature. It's based in Indigenous mythology, which I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed it. And Eden Robinson, I really liked her writing. I found myself laughing a lot of times. It's just really easy to get lost in it. So highly recommend. Another Canada Reads. Okay, that's 4 out of 5 stars. The next one is another Canada Reads. This one is also 4 out of 5 stars. And that is Small Game Hunting at the Local Coward Gun Club by Megan Gale Coles. This is probably the one that I felt like had the biggest impact on me from the Canada Reads. That said, it was the closest to being a 3 or 3.5 because of the way it's written. It's really hard to read, and it does impede the joy of reading it. That said, the content is 10 out of 10. It's fantastic as far as what it is it's discussing. It's this series of relationships between these people in this small town in Newfoundland. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad. I should know that. I know there's a difference. Okay, I know there's a difference. And it basically explores abuse in relationships and particularly sexism and gaslighting. And it's just a really good commentary on rape culture and all in all. Also, this cover is gorgeous. The next one is A Little Women by Louise May Alcott. This one I enjoyed. I mean, it's classic, so I'd be surprised if you haven't heard of it. But it's about 4 sisters, I believe, and their mother, and just trying to live in this time. And I thought it was really good. It was surprisingly funny and engaging. I liked how these women tended to challenge classic perceptions. At least some of them did. I wish I loved it as much as Books and Lala did. Still, it was a solid recommendation. Still, it was good. I enjoyed it. 4 out of 5. And the next one is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Mercado. It is a series of weird or horror fiction. What am I trying to say here? Not fiction. Short story fiction. It is fiction, but it's short stories. I really wanted to give this 5 out of 5, but I could not because while there were some short stories in here which blew my mind and I absolutely adored, there were several others that I just really did not like. There was one in here. It's basically fan fiction about SVU, and as someone who watches SVU, I couldn't find it believable. It was just so distracting having the characters that I know acting in these absurd ways, which are just nothing like them. Like the same story could have been told with different character names. Like, why didn't you do that? It's just like, after that one story, I had a really bad taste in my mouth about this. It just made me really upset because it started so strong and then became really mediocre, despite having some really good stories in here. 2 more 4 stars. First one is Ex Libris, Confessions of a Common Reader by Anne Faidman. And this is just her memoir talking about her love of reading, her relationship with her husband. It's basically a series of essays condensed into a narrative of a memoir. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of really interesting points of view about the art of reading, the nature of reading, loving to read, and writing. Next one, last 4 star, is Binti Home, the second book in the Binti series by Nidhi Okafor. I enjoyed this. I don't think I loved it as much as the first one. The story is very much a middle story. I was really, like the first story I felt like worked really well. on its own. This one is very much dependent on the first story and then drops off immediately to lead up to the last one. The fact is the ending on this is just really abrupt, and it doesn't feel like a really good story on its own. Still really fun read. As a series, it's still fantastic. 4 to 5 stars. 2 4.5 stars. First one's going to be Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys, which I absolutely loved. It started off so strong. It just has just the right level of fantasy and contemporary mixed in, and I just adored this. I can't wait to continue the series. Thank you so much to Books and Lala for recommending it. From what I've heard, it gets better from here, so I can't wait to move on to the next ones. The last 4.5 stars is going to be I Crawl Through It by A.S. King. This one, oh my god, so much love. I was so worried because this book, her writing is so weird. It is so fucking weird, and I can't help but wonder at times, starting off, whether or not I'm going to leave it loving the writing but not liking how it all comes together, because obviously it's a fine line between being weird and being something you can understand, and I felt like she walked that line perfectly. I love this so much. Why did I give it 4.5 stars? I don't even remember anymore. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's her writing that I love more than the actual plot. The plot was good, but it wasn't. I think probably the reason it was 4.5 out of 5 is just because the plot wasn't the best thing in the world. It was more how she told the plot. I can't wait to keep reading more A.S. King. Thank you. Thank you to Ariel Bissett and to Books and Lala for pushing this author so much. Love you all. Gotta contain myself. We're here to talk about books. We're not here to have fun. Okay, next up, to start my 5-star reads, the first one is actually the last Canada reads, and that is We Have Always Been Here by Samira Habib. And this is her memoir about being a gay Muslim woman who moved from, I believe, Pakistan to Canada. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It is the only Canada reads that I actually gave 5 stars to. I loved it because of the queer side. I was really able to resonate with her story, particularly as someone who comes from a religious background, who has to try and understand their sexuality with their religious background, telling them it's wrong, and then trying to communicate that to your family and your friends, trying to balance the two. And then the way it ends up, sure, there were some horror stories, but things don't always end badly for queer people. I liked where the story had to go, and I felt like I could really connect to her story, and for that I gave it full 5 out of 5 stars. Okie dokie, where the fuck is my 5-star? Here we go. Now to the final 3 5-star books. I would say these are in any particular order, but they're not. I can't. First one is Come Tumbling Down by Shauna McGuire. Another amazing book in the Wayward Children series. As with some of the stories, I felt like the start of this book was a little shaky just because you have to set the groundwork for the story she's setting up here. All in all, it's something that came together very strongly, and I think it worked fantastically as a story and in this world. I mean, of course, it's Wayward Children series. How can you not love it? Unless you're a monster. I'm kidding. That seems like a little too much shade. I'm sorry. But it worked perfect for me. Even if the setup felt a little forced, I felt like it wasn't enough to weigh the book down at all. The next one's going to be book 2 of the Lady Astronauts of Mars, and that is The Faded Sky by Mary Robinette Kowal. I love this. It doesn't stand alone as a book as well as the first one did, but it was still a fantastic continuation of this narrative. If you don't know, this is a series that I've loved, and it's about this alternative history in the 1950s where a climatic event basically speeds up climate change or is having a drastic change in the climate, so we have to get to space within a matter of decades or die. And spearheading this entire process is this one woman engineer and scientist who we follow in this story. This is her attempt to get us to Mars, to get us to the moon, and then to Mars, and so on and so forth. First off, let me say, this isn't high sci-fi. This series is largely a discussion of inclusion and discrimination, especially set in the 1950s. You have to understand, it's easy to see how they might fit into this conversation of race, xenophobia, and sexism. She covers that fantastically. And then there's also just the finer details of trying to organize a space program from scratch, basically. It's really grounded in the today, in the sense that you don't have to fantasize about the future. This is literally things that we could be doing today if we had the motivation to do so. And this series is really just an exploration of one of the ways we might have had a different path if we had the right motivation to do so. Fundamentally, this is a story of hope. I absolutely adore it, and I love it. I love this series, and the third book of this series actually comes out in July, I think. I would love an arc of that. I would hype it up so hard, you have no idea. I would have gotten so many people in my space department to read this book, or try to. Please, 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 to Tor and to Mary Robinette Kowal, I beg of you, let me spread the joy, all the lady astronauts of Mars, for you. Praise be. And last, but oh God, not least, is going to be Song of Achilles. Yes, thank you. I finally read it. I talk about this in my Queer Lit Reads stuff, so if you want to hear more about it, you can go there. But let's just say I loved it. It was queer, and it was gay, and it was mythology. Everything I love. It really redefined Achilles for me in a way that was believable and didn't feel forced. It's really inspired me to seek out some gay smut, because Jesus, there is some sexy stuff in here. I love it. I love it. Thank you to everyone who recommends this, particularly my one friend who knows who they are if they're watching this. Highly recommend this book. I loved it even more than Circe. It had the amazing writing and plotting of Madeline Miller mixed with the underlying queerness to really touch me at my core. Okay, I think we're done. Let me check my book to make sure. According to my research, that's it. I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Have a great April. I look forward to making the best of a terrible year and month. Goodbye. Stay safe and wash your hands.